Hi, it's Maya here, and this is my TBR for the Pop Culture Readathon, which spans the whole of July. And this round is focused on 90s movies. I think this is the first ever round of this readathon, and it is created by Whitney Elizabeth from @LifeWithMe on Twitter, from the blog Books With Me. And this round is co-hosted by @ReadingParent. So when I learned about this readathon, which is themed with 90s movies, I knew I had to take part. There are 4 different bingo boards with prompts. There was Teen Dream, which had Clueless prompts among others. Then there was Family Affair, which had Addams Family prompts. And then there was the Adult Table, which had a Death Becomes Her prompt. So all of those movies that I mentioned I really like, but I went with Thrill Ride. Of course I did. So this has, as you can see, the Craft, the Mummy and Scream prompts. And I'm trying to get a bingo on the bottom row and also the horizontal row right above that. So since I'm a bit late with this TBR, I have already finished a couple of books in July. And I will tell you now of the books that I read, what prompts they fulfilled. And the first prompt is from the bottom row, the one that I'm focusing on. And that is for the Sidney Prescott Read a Book with a Badass Main Character prompt. And this is Glory by Joe Keating and Sophie Campbell. And this is sort of a superhero comic. It's like, it has very over-the-top blood and gore. But the main character is this big alien woman. For the prompt Blair Witch Project, which is to read a book with a black or white cover, I read Our Dreams at Dusk by Yuki Kamata, and it has this sort of blue-white cover, so I think it counts. And this is a manga focusing on LGBT plus characters from different backgrounds finding their place in the world. And at least in this first volume, the main character was high schooler Tasku, who is terrified that he has been outed as gay. And then from the second to bottom row that I'm also trying to get a bingo on, I have fulfilled It's Just a Bunch of Hocus Pocus. Read a book that includes magic. And I read City of Dragons by Robin Hobb, which is the 3rd book in the not the Liveship Traders, the Rainwild Chronicles. I did start it in June, but I was like about 50% of the way through, and I did finish it in July, so I'm counting it. I was planning to read the novella Thornbound by Stephanie Burgess for this challenge. It's about a woman who starts a magic school. So if I finish that also this month, I will count City of Dragons for the What's Your Favorite Scary Story, the book from one of your favorite authors instead. So now we move on to the actual TBR books that I haven't yet read, which would fulfill the rest of the prompts on the rows that I want to get a bingo on. And on the bottom row, there's the Mummy Read a Book with the Undead. And for this, I'm planning to read Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno Garcia, which has Mexican vampires. And then for the prompt Practical Magic, read a book that involves a curse. I'm planning to read The True Queen by Zen Cho. This is about 2 sisters who have been cursed, and they travel to London to get help from the characters from the first book set in the same world, which was called Sorcerer to the Crown. So for the second row that I'm trying to get a bingo on, for the prompt Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board, which is to read a book with a creepy or haunted feel, I'm planning to either finish reading The Light Tree by Frances Hardinge, even though I think this has more of like a bleak atmosphere than a haunting one. But I also have waiting for me at the library the horror novella The Monster of Elendhaven by Jennifer Giesbrecht, which I think would fulfill that challenge better. And then for the prompt Candyman, read a book with supernatural creatures, I have from the library Unraveling by Karen Lord. I think this focuses on a human woman but has some supernatural creatures in it, at least based on the little description on the flap, and on me having read Redemption in Indigo by Karen Lord, which I heard takes place in the same world. So that one at least had these supernatural creatures, these spirits. Then for the prompt Scream 2, read a book from your second favorite genre. That would be either science fiction or horror for me. So if I go with science fiction, if I have the time to read another novel, I will go with Behind the Throne by Gaby Wages, which is about Hale Bristol, who is a gun runner. I don't know what that is, but it sounds pretty badass. But she has to go back to rule the Indranan Empire because apparently she's the heir to the throne. And then my second choice, if I want to go with a novella, is the horror novella The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Laval, which is a horror novella that's based on, I hear, a very racist H.P. Lovecraft story, like one of his most racist stories. But this one is a reimagining written by a black man with a black man main character. So that's one that I could read for this as well. Or I could go with The Monster of Elendhaven if I don't end up using it for the haunted feel prompt. So those were the prompts that I'm trying to get a bingo on. And then there a couple of other prompts that I could fulfill. There's the book from one of your favorite authors prompt that I mentioned earlier. So if I read another book for the prompt that I'm using the City of Dragons for, I will use City of Dragons by Robin Hobb for this. And then there's also the prompt, I Know What You Did Last Summer, read a 2019 release, which I thought is a really clever prompt. I have Silver in the Wood by Emily Tesh, which was released in 2019, and this is a Tour.com novella, so it's very short. And I think this is a fantasy romance between a human man and a sort of a green man character. I do have some books in mind for the prompts for the rest of the board as well, all but the Chosen One prompt. I couldn't find anything for that. But I don't actually think I have time to get to any more books in July than what I mentioned, so I'm not gonna go through them right here. And then I also thought for my own entertainment, I might also watch some 90s movies during the readathon, because I noticed that Finnish Netflix, at least the Finnish Netflix, has The Mummy, The Craft and Clueless, and I love all of those movies, so I think I will watch them in July and also see if they have something else there as well. So that was my TBR for the Pop Culture Readathon. Let me know if you are also taking part, and I will see you in my next video.